The last location we need to talk about today is the South. We discussed earlier how places like Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina were filled with Loyalists. Early in the war, in 1776, Patriots came out victorious in battles like that at Moore Creek near Wilmington, North Carolina. They also kept control of a key port in Charlestown, South Carolina. This was a small battle, but having control of that port had a huge impact on the war because it was another place Americans could get supplies. By 1778, when the Patriots had victories in places such as Saratoga, the British were starting to realize that gathering control over the colonies was not going to be as easy as they had hoped. The British came up with a new plan that focused on the South. They hoped to use sea power and the support of Loyalists to win important victories. At first they did. In late 1778, British General Henry Clinton sent 3,500 troops from New York down to capture Savannah, Georgia. In 1780, Clinton took his troops north to Charlestown, and the South Carolina city surrendered and took thousands of prisoners. After this victory, Clinton went back to New York, but his troops stayed behind under General Charles Cornwallis. Pause the video and answer this question. What was the British response to American victories at battles like the one at Saratoga? With the British gaining control in the South, the Continental Congress sent forces under General Horatio Gates to fight against Cornwallis. In the first battle at Camden, South Carolina, the British were victorious in August 1780. Things were about to change, though. The Americans fought with a new kind of warfare, known as hit and run. As the British forces moved through the countryside, small forces of patriots would attack them. These soldiers appeared suddenly, fired their weapons, and then disappeared, often catching the British off guard. One of the patriot leaders behind this tactic or strategy was Francis Marion. He operated in the swamps of eastern South Carolina, earning him the nickname Swamp Fox. Pause the video for a moment. How would you defend yourself against the hit and run warfare? After the British victory at Camden, South Carolina, the British continued to move northward through the Carolinas in September 1780. As they marched, they threatened locals to give up their fight for independence or face consequences, such as hanged leaders or burned or destroyed towns and countryside. For Britain, this was a bad move. People living in the mountains who had so far remained neutral, meaning they didn't side with the Patriots or the Loyalists, were now upset. They formed their own militia army and were determined to force the British off their land. At Kings Mountain, the American militia killed or captured a British force of 1,000 men, a big victory for the Patriots in the South. In October of 1780, Nathaniel Greene was named the new commander of the Continental forces in the South. He split his forces and sent some men to a victory at Cowpen, South Carolina in January 1781. His other forces met up with Morone and joined his hit-and-run raids. The forces combined again in March 1781, and they met the British Army under Cornwallis at the Gulliford Courthouse in Greensboro, North Carolina. The British forces were victorious, but they lost a great number in this battle. Cornwallis knew that he had to act fast if the British were going to win this war, because more soldiers and supplies were arriving from France every day. In April 1781, Cornwallis marched his troops north to Virginia. General Washington sent Lafayette and General Anthony Wayne to push Cornwallis back south. Cornwallis took shelter in Yorktown. The battle for control of the South was entering its final phase. Pause your video and answer this question now. Were the British campaigns or battles in the South successful? Why or why not?
Created using Powtoon.